Hi, our review of the day is for Tomorrow Lies in Ambush by Bob Shaw. Here present in this rather nice little pan edition that is in moderately good condition, despite being very, very secondhand and having lived in my bag for a few weeks. So Bob Shaw is an Irish author. I always thought he was an English author. I apologise to anyone of Irish descent and Bob Shaw for that mistake. Write me off as an ignorant Australian, hey? It's a short story collection. Bob Shaw did write novels, and I'm keen to read some of his novels, but I mostly got my hands on his short stories. And it's interesting, there's 11 of them. It's interesting when you look them up in the front of the book, it doesn't sound like many of them started in magazines or pulps. Those would be italicized in the list of first publication, and very few of these are, except for Pilot Planet, which is the 9th story and published in 1966 New Worlds. I don't really understand where the other ones are published. So let's talk about the cover. Great science fiction-y, classic-y cover. Who painted it? Who knows? If you know, let me know. I did image searches, and an image search suggests that it might be a Josh Kirby cover. I have got strong doubts about that. That does not look to me like Josh Kirby artwork. And while the first Ace edition of this book was done by Kirby and looks like it was done by Kirby, I'm not sure I believe that. Anyhow, if you do know that, let me know. Short story collections are notoriously hard for me to rate because each one on their own merits is a bit different. But overall, this collection evens out at 4 stars for the whole book. And it was really good, and I mostly did enjoy it. What else have we got to say? Let's, without further ado, dive into the stories. Number 1 is Call Me Dumbo, and I gave that one 5 stars. It is a fantastic, slow reveal in a strange scenario. It starts off with Dumbo, who is the happy wife living in a pretty little cottage with roses in the garden. She's got a husband called Carl, and she's got 3 sons. And she's musing, as the story starts, about how her name is Dumbo, which isn't a real name, but all the rest of the family have got real names. When she says something about it to Carl, he turns really mean, accuses her of not taking her medication, and then this slow, scary reveal takes place. A lot of these books read more as horror than as science fiction. They all are science fiction, but that slow reveal, the underlying motif, and the way it rolls out feel very horror-ish. Dumbo certainly did. It had, I'm not going to spoiler any of these stories, they don't deserve it, but it had a fantastic ending, and it ended up being pure science fiction. Number 2 is called Repeat Performance. I gave that one 4 stars. It's an exciting and weird premise. It starts with a small town somewhere. It felt like Midwest America, but who knows? Who knows where Shaw meant it to be placed? And it's a cinema. Our narrator is the owner of the cinema. He's only ever wanted in all his life to be the owner of a cinema, but there's something weird happening in his cinema. And he realizes that when he sees an actor leaving the cinema after an afternoon performance, and this is a tiny bit player that not 1 in 100 people would recognize, and he's really excited by this, but he can't catch up with the actor, and then he realizes that these strange electricity surges are connected to it. And it was nicely written. I really enjoyed it, and the mystery of it was great. I got strong The Color Purple vibes. That was a movie I really enjoyed, where the actor breaks the 4th wall, turns around the screen, and says to our main protagonist, "You must really love this movie. You've watched it so many times in a row." But I was quite wrong about that. This is not The Color Purple scenario at all, but the scenario that it is excellent. Number 3, And Isles Where Good Men Lie. In the far future of 1984, All these alien ships keep arriving. I should probably be looking up where these were first published. This one is very strongly science fiction in alien invasion way. Our main protagonist is a war hero called John something or other, and Hero Johnny, as he's known by the media. He, after years of fighting and slaughtering heaps of invaders, he started to doubt the narrative that Earth has about the invaders and what they're doing here. He didn't stop seeing them as an invasion force. He started seeing them as desperate settlers escaping something. And the key note to that made him really desperate, really depressed and unhappy is it didn't matter. The aliens were so inimical to humans, so terrifying in appearance, so incredibly unsuited for cohabitation, that it wouldn't matter who or what they are, they would still be getting destroyed. So John took a retirement station in remote Iceland where not very many of the ships land, and then after a certain amount of time there, a ship is coming into land. It's such a good premise. I didn't like this story. I gave it 2 stars. I actually nearly DNF'd this one a couple of times because aside from all that, which I've told you, there's also this complicated scenario with his wife who isn't happy with him, who married the hero and doesn't like the middle-aged man he's grown into, and it was a bit icky. No, it was more than a bit icky. And I felt that the writing was shambolic. It didn't flow, it didn't engage me, it didn't keep me hooked in. So, 2 star. The hard science part of it was fine. The whole married to unhappy Marion, I could have lived without that. Story number 4 is What Time Do You Call This? And I ended up giving that 3 stars. It's a bit of a little twist on dimensional travel. It wasn't a great story in some ways, but it was a short story and it did okay for the amount of time that you were involved with it. So a bank robber is waiting to see the perfect moment to rob this bank that he's been staking out for ages. We gather where it could be 40s or 50s type scenario, and then this dimensional traveler appears in the room with him and starts basically info dumping on you about how time travel is possible. I like time travel. The central concept of it isn't bad. The info dumping was not. So, 3 stars. 3 stars, by the way, is generous. It's probably more like a 2 star in hindsight. But the concept wasn't bad. Okay, story number 5 is communication. So this starts out with a computer salesperson who's clearly not a normal computer salesperson, and it falls into something that is quite different. I think that what Shaw was examining here was computer databasing, because this person turns up to the worst salesman in the world and says he wants to buy a computer that will be used in Red Deer, Canada, and he needs it to be able to record all the biometrics of all the people in Red Deer. I think this was Shaw really examining what the privacy invasion possibilities and repercussions of computer databasing could be like, and it was published in 1970. All of these are 60s. I think the earliest is 65s through to 70s. So it's actually quite prescient, and the concept of it is quite good. The writing style was not brilliant. It was patchy. It was at times truly engaging. It was always a great idea, but it wasn't always the easiest one to read, so I gave that one 3 stars. Story number 6 is The Cosmic Cocktail Party, where this is brains in a box meets alien invasion meets weird stuff. We've got a future possibility in which people have saved the energy recordings, maybe, of brains of famous people, and it's a business, and they charge a lot for saving these recorded mental images so that people can retrieve them. It's normally used for academics. In this one particular case, it's used to preserve the pattern of the person who established, instituted, freedomed, whatever, a small African country, and the country that's paying for his upkeep wants him to come out and give a speech for a specific holiday, which is a problem because he's gone AWOL in the machine. No more, but it is a great concept. Story number 7 is The Happiest Day of Your Life. I gave that one 4 stars. It is short, it is dark, it is unsettling, and more speculative science fiction horror than pure science fiction. It's talking about a future where a full education can be imparted in 2 hours to people who've got the money and the right kind of brain. And this happens to them when they're 7. So essentially, they stop being a child and start being a fully productive, entirely educated member of the human race. And what does that do to the people left behind? Really great concept. A bit maudlin, but I thought it was a really good one. Number 8 is The Weapons of Isha 2. I gave this one 4 stars. It was an excellent story. It had a great opening line and a great premise. It was clever but tightly written. And a few of the stories before it had been less tightly written. And so I was appreciating the writing on that one very much. Overall, I'll say that his writing style is really quite great, and his concepts are dark, disturbing, and marvelous, and there's quite a bit of science in them. The Weapons of Isha 2 definitely stood out in having no waffle. Story number 9 is Pilot Plant. This was the longest one in the collection at 38 pages, and it's probably the most hard science of the lot. It starts with an accident. You've got Garrett, I think his name is the owner of this incredibly futuristic aeroplane corporation. It makes these airplanes that don't have fixed wings, but rather have projected wings. So it's using technology that we today don't have, and there certainly wasn't around in the 70s. Anyway, he's watching the newest test pilot take off when an accident occurs. The cockpit is ejected, and the plane skims over the car he's in and just hits it enough to remove a large piece of his skull. After he comes out of hospital, he realizes that someone's taking over his company and doing weird things. A line that he asked to be discontinued is now being continued. There's a mystery. It's all pretty dark and dire, and it's very, very science fiction at the end. And the end is very good. There's a few, I've got to say, I don't think Bob Shaw wrote relationships particularly well. And there's a relationship in this one, but it doesn't obscure the central purpose of the story. This one has got a lot of science in it, and it's got some great concepts. So one of the concepts is that this particular airplane line specializes in having the shells of the aircraft are all basically interconnected. The only really important part is the pilot's cockpit, in which the pilot is situated. That's the, pardon me for a second, but that is the important part of the equation, because everything else is interchangeable. And we get into this discussion of why that is so. After the technology advanced past a certain stage, the limiting factor was the pilot's ability to pilot. So they made all these changes, including changes that made the pilots to make the pilot fly these faster and faster planes beyond the capacity of humanity to actually manage, which is true for today. A lot of what our pilots have to do is beyond their capacity, that there is a fail-safe in some particular situations. Well, here, the pilot is so wired in to the cockpit that eventually their limiting capacity became how fast could their eyes move from dial to dial. Really great for the science lovers. And that was number 7. Okay, that was number 9. Number 10 is Telemark 3. And again, short, sweet, dark and humorous look at the future of telemarketing, where the product materializes straight to the house. Okay, so we've seen plenty of science fiction stories over the years where the house becomes this completely other, wired, intelligent, and often malign presence. Well, there's a little bit of this in here. We've also got a futuristic scenario. A man marries his wife on the understanding that her inheritance is going to be enough to support them. She goes on shopping binges. Something bad happens to her, and she gets signed up for a telemarketing situation where the product is beamed directly into the house. I think I've told you quite enough about that one. Great little story, 4 stars. Read it fast. The final one in this collection is Invasion of Privacy. A 7-year-old boy sitting at the dinner table claims to his parents to have seen his granny, who died 2 weeks ago. His mother, May, gets really, really sad, leaves the table in tears. The father remonstrates with his son over upsetting his mother and how he couldn't have seen his granny, but the boy is adamant he did. And he says where he saw her. Where he saw her is at this small shack at the edge of town. And Bob Shaw talks about how every town has got this haunted house that children scare each other about and challenge each other, dare each other to go into its grounds and look around. And in this particular scary house, the boy claims to have seen his granny. But his granny is buried. And shortly after this, the boy becomes desperately ill. I mean, almost immediately after telling his parents about this. And it is a creepy, creepy story with some science fiction-y, alien-y stuff thrown in there. And a very cliffhanger, scary ending. So overall, I'm going to give this collection 4 stars. It was a great reading experience. I managed to pace myself with the stories well. All the good things, none of the bad things, and no regrets. This is the last short story collection I will finish for 2025, where I've been claiming that I want to read more science fiction short stories. It is not the last one I will finish, however, because Weird Frequencies is sitting right over there and it is calling to me. Thank you for watching. Have a great Christmas season. I think we're virtually nearly in Christmas now, so I hope everyone has a good Christmas, a happy new year, and read good books in your holiday.